Today, the United States Supreme Court will hear arguments over the legality of one of the signature policies of President Trump's second term. That's his sweeping tariffs on foreign goods. The High Court will consider whether the president overstepped his powers, imposing tariffs without congressional approval under a law reserved for use in times of emergency.
Some states and small businesses argue the tariffs are illegal and should be struck down. The president called the case, quote, literally life or death for our country in a post on his Truth social media account ahead of today's proceedings.
International trade attorney Michelle Schulz is monitoring the proceedings from here in Texas, and she's joining us now for a little more perspective on what's going on. So, Michelle, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, first we want to back up and give folks a little more context about what's at issue here. Who are the plaintiffs? What are they saying that the president has done?
So the plaintiffs include a group of states as well as small businesses. For example, a toy company. These are small businesses that are impacted by tariffs. They are the ones required to pay the tariffs as the importer of record under the Code of Federal Regulations. The president is saying that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act authorizes the executive branch to unilaterally impose tariffs on countries with no limitation. And the plaintiffs are saying, no, it doesn't. That's not what it was intended for.
And so where are we right now then as far as arguments go?
So we have heard initial arguments from the government, and we are now hearing some of the arguments from the plaintiffs. What I'm hearing from the justices is a lot of questioning. Does this make sense? Why is this an emergency? And, you know, having done trade law for a long time, I can tell you I've not seen this law used for tariffs in the past 23 plus years. So they're kind of asking that question too. No one ever uses this for tariffs, and it doesn't say it authorizes tariffs. So it's a little bit, it appears there's a little bit of a stretch.
You're hearing some skepticism there. Does the ruling from the High Court have any impact more broadly on presidential powers? Could this extend further into, what the president and the executive branch is allowed to do?
I believe it could, because it's the difference between giving the president unfettered authority to make decisions about things like tariffs and saying, no, your authority is limited. So I do think it has some implications for our clients who are importers. It is a matter of money and whether they can pass the cost to their client, because the tariffs being discussed are as high as 50% in some cases.
I think that was the question that I was going to ask you as well. What does it come down to for these businesses? Are they saying if these tariffs continue to go through, that they are going to lose business, if not close?
Yes, one or the other. And this impacts not just large companies, but also small. And we have both contacting us saying, hey, we cannot mark up the price anymore. We've marked up our prices as much as possible. They've reached agreements with their foreign suppliers. And that was one of the arguments that I heard this morning. Oh, you can contract with your foreign supplier. But in reality, there are not many foreign suppliers who are willing to contractually take on that legal burden of paying the whole tariff or even a big portion of it.
We've heard from the White House in the past that this is all in effort to bring more manufacturing and production here to the states. Has that argument played a major role today, or what are we really hearing from the administration's attorneys?
I have not heard that argument a lot today. I've heard a lot of defending why this is an emergency and why the president should have this authority, even though there's no real precedent that's spot on since maybe President Nixon. I don't think the government's really focusing on that. I think it's probably because what I've seen just in my practice is that importers are not able to manufacture because they can't import the parts and components at a reasonable price anymore. So manufacturing jobs have not just come to the U.S., they've also left.
We do know as well, these tariffs are remaining in effect while the case is being argued. So we'll let our audience know that. Anything else that you think that people should be aware of as these arguments continue today?
Yes, I would keep in mind, even if the government does not prevail, even if the toy company and the other plaintiffs win, we still do have some issues because there are other authorities like Section 232, Section 301, and those are just completely different statutes under which the president has brought tariffs for copper, aluminum, steel, furniture, pharmaceuticals. Those are not impacted by this decision. This is only for those country by country tariffs that are applied depending how our administration feels about the country.
Much to follow, Michelle. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your context today.
And thank you. Anytime.